Hey, Sox fans. Welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, a local fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast, hosted by Nick Murawski and Pat Hester.
Hey, Sox fans. Hey, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. This is episode 286. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find this podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We do it live on Sunday nights on our YouTube channel, and the audio is available everywhere. We've taken a couple weeks off, but our beloved White Sox, they continued their normal ways. We'll get into all of that and more. With me, as always, my best friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Nick, good evening. I'm really excited, first of all, because you've decided now is the time that you're going to change the fate of the White Sox by shaving your mustache off. For those that aren't watching or listen to this normally after the fact, you're going to have to go to the video tomorrow. I mean, it's like looking at a completely different person. I hardly recognize you. You look fantastic. But it's almost like the sun. I have to look away. I have to avert my eyes. I might, my retinas might be burned, but it's good to see you. The Sox did win today. They did. Not much has changed since we last spoke. I really don't know where tonight's episode will go, Nick. We didn't really spend a lot of time in the pre-show meeting talking much White Sox. So I can't wait to see what you have in store for me today and what journey we're going to take together.
Just to kind of give everybody a peek behind the curtains, Pat and I will usually jump on before we go live. We'll talk, catch up a little bit. It's been a couple weeks, and our pre-show conversation was about how we would want to look in our caskets when we die eventually. It was a very bizarre conversation. It went in a lot of different directions, but I don't know if that was just something subconsciously with the way the Sox have been playing, how the season has gone, death, doom and gloom. But we'll cobble an episode together for sure. Thank you so much to so many folks joining us, spending their Sunday with us. Peyton, Greg, Sydney, Sean, Howard, John, Scott, love to have you along. Thank you again for joining us on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. I shaved the mustache. So if you're just on audio, check out the YouTube feed. I don't know if you have facial hair, if you've done the facial beard, mustache, goatee, whatever. Sometimes you just feel it. You're just like, I got to change. I just want to do something different. I don't know if it's just my trying to will the fortunes of the Sox, even though that sounds ridiculous. That mustache saw a lot of bad baseball over the last couple seasons. So I just felt like, you know what, let's just go clean and we'll start anew.
You DFA'd the mustache, and that's fantastic. It took a while, but I look forward to having it back at some point. I mean, it's the fall after all. I know you're a fall guy. Yes. And there's nothing better than a good fall mustache. So I can't wait to see it start to sprout and come back to its normal length. But for now, that'll do.
Yeah. John says it's like Mike Ditka shaving. I appreciate that. Yeah, that would be weird if Iron Mike, if you saw him without a mustache. I have to have some facial hair when it definitely stays cooler. Now it's been cooler in the morning, which I love. Love this. If you're listening from somewhere else outside of the Chicagoland area, we've had some chilly mornings. And they've been great. This is how I feel like, or as we approach mid-September, this is what it should be like. But it's going to get back up to the 80s this week. But when it's consistently cold, Pat, I got to have some sort of protection on the skin. So it'll be back.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
I was concerned. Now that we got 5 minutes out of mustache conversation, so let's see if we can make another 40 out of Chicago White Sox conversation. I do have something that came to my mind.
Sure.
I think I should be in good shape, but you tell me if I'm a crazy person. I somewhat am. I have a bet with someone at work we did early on in the season, it was on Andrew Benintendi batting average. Currently, he's at 222. Do you think there's any way in hell he could get to 250? If not, I'm $5 richer. Is there any way that you see Andrew Benintendi could probably bat about 350? I'm just doing. I didn't do the math on that. I'm just guessing. You'd have to go on a tear. He has been hitting the ball a little bit better lately. Raised his batting average, I think, 12 points in the last month or so. So should I be concerned at all that he could find a way to get to 250 before the end of the year?
I don't think he can. He has been hitting the ball better. He started. I mean, he's been so awful, especially this season, that this little tear he was on. I mean, it's bumped him up to really nothing. It's bumped him up to still pathetic. So I don't think you have anything to worry about.
All right, so $5 coming my way from one Connor Donlin. Connor Donlin, if you're listening, you might as well just start putting that money aside.
Yep,
because
it makes up for the insane division bet we made at the beginning of the year, where we each, put in $10 to bet the Sox were going to win the division, because we were all kinds of excited about the 350 odds we were getting. That was insane. So you're now going to get back into that. That's going to cut into your losses.
Well, now you have to start thinking about next year, Nick. Do we double down? I mean, listen, we're nothing if we're not fans and believers and are hopeful for the future. It's time to start considering, what we're going to do for next year. And we probably don't have any better odds than we're going to get right now. So we might want to start thinking about that, perusing the odds on the Sox to win the 2025 AL Central.
Yeah, I would say as soon as they release that number, we jump all over it. That's ours. But I guess it could get worse depending on what their off season is. But as we record here on Sunday, September 8th, again, we've taken 2 weeks off in observation of the holiday, Labor Day last weekend. Our White Sox are 33-111. Okay, I had to stare at that for a couple moments. Like, is that real? Is that? I'm writing it, I'm looking at it, I'm saying it, but it just feels like it can't be real. 33-111, 78 games under 500. We've got 18 games left in the season. The Sox are eliminated from playoff contention and were a while ago, but it's still fun to look at how many games back. I want to know what the record is. Not just the White Sox, but what team was the worst, like the insurmountable amount of games back at the season end. Sox are right now 48.5 games back. Again, they're out of contention, but it's just fun to see that number grow.
I mean, the half almost seems like mean. Can you just say 48? I mean, I get it. It's really 48.5.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the apps or whatever, keeping up on, can you just say, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, just give them 48. Let them feel a little bit better about themselves.
48.5. It is that forgiving AL Central, and the Sox will see the division leaders starting on Monday, which should be fun. A minus 302 run diff, which is also.
Did you say 302?
302 run differential.
Okay. I think I remember when we did our season preview, and we talked about stats, or maybe one of our shows. And I'm not a huge analytics stats type guy, other than the basic stuff that you and I grew up with.
Yeah.
But run diff has always been one that I've looked at, because traditionally the ones with the teams with the best run diff are the ones that are in the playoffs year after year. It doesn't always happen that way, but you can look at the top 10 teams in baseball and their run diff, and that's going to tell you who's going to be or going to the playoffs. And when you sat there and just told me that they have a minus 302 and run differential, not that I was, thinking that there was going to be any way in hell this team would, receive a miracle of some sort and find their way back in the playoff race anytime soon. But boy, that is putrid. I mean, it's almost unheard of.
You have to really want it to be that bad. I mean, this isn't accidental, and we'll get to some of that. I mean, you witness.
It's like those people that are like 1,000 pounds.
Sure.
You could be overweight, but if you're 1,000 pounds, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, that you have to work at it. Yeah, that's. I would assume that's not accidental. There's some very purposeful, mission driven lifestyle to get to that, and And the Sox are not only built, for this, but you also just, I mean, it's not like hard luck here. Like, oh man, they're just the balls bouncing in a weird way for them. It's just bad, just awful. The way they're playing and how they're constructed, especially that bullpen. So, before we get into some of the stuff that's happened recently and some of the things that Sizemore has said and even assistant GM Barfield on what could be happening here in the offseason, with the Bears kicking off and the NFL kicking off, and I think you're a great person to ask of this because I think you've been to so many in both camps. Where would you say better tailgates are? Chicago Bears tailgates or White Sox tailgates?
You know what? That's a great question, Nick. Over the years, because of the way parking has been at Soldier Field with, where you're at and how you're having to get, just the setup itself. Everybody knows in and out of Soldier Field has got to be one of the worst experiences of all time. But the tailgates are traditionally, for football games are stepped up a notch because that's part of the experience, right? I don't think that, for baseball, I haven't tailgated at every Sox game that I've gone to, but I have probably tailgated at every Bears game I've attended because it's part of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could say, and I get it, for a lot of Sox fans, it is part of the day. Like we're going, it's going to be, this is what we're bringing and this is what we're doing. But I think Bears tailgates and football tailgates in general, because it's so much part of the fabric of the day, that I've walked by and experienced and been part of a lot of great, not only Bears tailgates, but football tailgates. I mean, last year I had the opportunity to go down to Kansas City to see the Bears play the Chiefs. And that, I'm going to tell you what, that's an experience unto itself, seeing that tailgate. So I've been to both. I've experienced greatness at each, but I'd have to say, if you're talking about just low key, casual, great for logistics wise, I guess you'd say you'd have to go with going to on the south side because your parking is right there by the ballpark, and it's just easy, right? Though the Bears is harder, I'd have to say maybe the experience of a Bears tailgate is kind of top notch, and it also has something to do with the fact that you're going to get 62,000 plus people there, so everybody's there doing that. You Lord knows how many people are showing up, especially these days for a Sox game.
Yeah, because they're so few in a season, I have found them to be so elaborate. You got to get your money's worth. You make it down there, and the spread, and and everything that comes with it. And yes, there's so many people that are doing something similar, and what they're cooking, and it's unbelievable. Football tailgates are something special, and I've been to some great Bears tailgates, been to some amazing Sox tailgates, and even the average Sox tailgate. People know how to do it. Sox fans, they know how to put a good spread together. There's going to be an outstanding tailgate. I think the last one of the year by the Chicago Sports Bums. Sydney asked if I'd be in attendance. I'm unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to make this one on Saturday. If a couple things change, hopefully I'll be able to, but it's not looking like it. But boy, if you are going to the Sox game on Saturday, and you have an opportunity to head over to Lot B, the Chicago Sports Bums, they do it, man. Full spread, food, drink. It is an absolute blast. And that's a big thing that they do. And I feel like I don't want to say that's an average Bears tailgate, because there are some smaller tailgates, but because it's once a week, because there's only 8 or so per year.
Yeah.
They're just, they're bigger in nature.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. You've got to get your money's worth.
Yeah. And it's, the game's always going to be at noon. So people have it all mapped out when they're getting there, and you have it. It's a whole thing. I mean, the people that have, taken over small buses and repainted them and repurposed things, and ambulances I've seen show up for Bears tailgates, and the TVs and the setups and man, it gets a little crazy. So again, though I love both, and there's nothing better than being out on a beautiful day, no matter where you're at, whether you're watching a Bears game or a Sox game, and cooking out and hanging out with friends, and because who knows what's going to happen once you enter the gates, and what you're going to see, the product you're going to see on the field on either for either team. So that was a great question, though, Nick. I love that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. I was watching, it was a home Bears game. And, speaking of those buses converted into kind of party buses or tailgate machines, whatever, I've got somebody down the street from me, maybe, I don't know, 10 blocks, and they've got a mini school bus that they've completely turned into a Bears bus. And I saw them, was on Saturday. There was a group of people getting that thing all ready, man, loading that thing up, getting all the essentials. It was pretty cool. And I've seen it parked there over the months, and it's coming alive here. This is the season for sure. It's that time where, baseball and football, they kind of coexist, and it's really difficult for me to be hanging on to the White Sox. And I caught a little bit of the Sox game live. I was watching far more Bears as it was going on. It's September White Sox, especially right now. But in most cases, I feel like since I've been alive, it's tough. Yeah. September Sox is very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that I've somewhat, like, as we've talked about a lot, checked out. I mean, I checked to see that they won today, which was fantastic. I thought, well, I saw the headline and it said Sox come back and win. And I thought, because they scored 5 runs in the 9th inning. And I thought, oh my gosh, did they finally win a game? They were losing after 7 innings, but that wasn't the case because they were tied. So they still have not come back and won a game after losing after 7 innings. So that I think is still intact. So that's great for them. But listen, man, if you want the eyeballs and you want the attention, you have to earn it now. I mean, you got to earn Sox fans' attention in September. It's not going to just be given to you. So I know there's some people out there, our friend Steve, who's out there, he seemingly hates football season, and he's always tweeting about it, right? Steve, he's just not a big fan. It's everything should be talked about with the White Sox at all times. But listen, football is king, and I know what I was going into today thinking was before the ball was kicked in the air, I thought, boy, I just need some joy. I just need some sports joy, because I haven't had it in this entire season. The Bears season last year wasn't all that fantastic, and I just needed I needed 3 hours of joy. And I got smacked in the face for the first half of crap.
Yeah.
I thought, here we go, man. I just needed a reason to sit on my couch and not do much, and just kind of go, I'm here. I'm invested for this entire game, and this is what I'm doing. It's not going to be background noise, because that's what it's turned into with the White Sox. I might have it on, but I'm doing dishes or vacuuming or playing with the kids or doing something. And today I just wanted some happiness. Thank God it worked out for me that way. But the Sox don't deserve any kind of. I don't know the last time I sat and watched 3 hours or 2.5 hours of a baseball game uninterrupted and completely focused on every pitch. It's focused. Been months. So I would love to be able to do that, though, Nick. I mean, it's that time of year when teams are in pennant chases and there's. You're moving into playoff baseball. We talked about the weather. You just feel it, right? And there's nothing more exciting than when your team is in it and this time of year. And when they're not, there's nothing more, I guess, empty, I guess, is the feeling that I have.
Apathetic. The Sox have won only 2 games since the last time we recorded. So 2 weeks ago, the Sox have won 2 games. So we haven't really missed much, and speaking of teams that are going for it in September, they're built for September. The Sox have seen a couple of those teams since we last talked. Interim manager Grady Sizemore, who's I think 4-28 since taking over for fired Pedro Grifol, said recently that he welcomed the challenge of playing playoff-bound teams because it forces us to play our best ball and see what we're made of. I could have probably saved that for the Sizemore quote of the week, but we know what you're made of.
Yeah.
I mean, we've known probably since the end of April what you're made of. And the trade deadline, hurt the Sox a little bit, but they were already completely damaged. So if, I don't know, playing against Baltimore, how they played, I mean, we can talk about, I'd love to get to a specific in particular, but if that's really what it is, I haven't seen it. I haven't really seen them getting up for these playoff bound teams. It's the same old garbage.
I think at this point, Nick, whether it was Pedro or now Grady, I think they just have to say things. I don't think. Can you really believe it? Can you really believe that what you're putting out there in front of people anymore? I mean, it's got to be just grueling to every day kind of come up with, all right, what can I say that will sound like maybe people care or I care, or we're trying to win ball games regardless of what's happened, because you can't say that. You can't, because you'll get destroyed. And Grady would never get another job probably again if he came out and said, well, we've got no freaking shot. So, but we got to be here. We're contractually obligated to still continue to play until the end of the season. Because that's, and for the integrity of the game and the records and people that are going for playoffs positioning, we have to play, but we have no shot. And I know we have no shot, and I don't really care. And neither do our fans, neither does our owner. I certainly don't care. So, it is what it is. I guess you can write the same thing again tomorrow when you ask me the same thing.
Here's something you could say. Something like we just talked about, Pat. We are eliminated from the playoffs. That's a fact. Playing baseball in September when you're already eliminated is very difficult. We are trying our best to stay professional and to continue to be competitive, and playing against playoff-bound teams gives us a little bit of edge to maybe trade to play spoiler, to see how we match up. I don't know. Something that is a little bit more of a genuine feel to it, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. Again,
it's still a bunch of crap, no matter what. It's just packaged in a different way.
You could write the answers up before the game. Because I'm anticipating they're going to ask me this. Yeah. So here's my written response. And because the game won't change what the script is going to be for afterwards.
Well, you offered some questions before a few hours before we actually met. We were texting a little bit and back forth. So we'll get to some of the things. I thought you had some good things to ask in terms of where this team is at. And one thing in particular in terms of Sox Fest, I was reading a little bit more into that. Howard was even asking about Sox Fest, and I'd like to see more details. There's just some basic stuff on that if anybody's even going to attend. But Sox need 9 more losses to tie the all-time worst loss record or amount from the 62 Mets, which is 120, and 10 more losses to take the record and make that their own. Again, 18 more games to play. The Sox did beat Boston on Sunday to avoid the sweep. I guess apparently Grady Sizemore is holding fewer meetings than former manager Pedro Grifol. I'd say I do it in a different, more casual way, Sizemore said. We're not having formal meetings. We're just talking about what we like for each series, and we probably focus more on our team rather than the other team. We're trying to focus on what our guys need to do to get better and use their strengths, and maybe not so much on the other team. Today's game was very clean. We took care of the ball, made good throws, and played good baseball. That sounds like something maybe a high school freshman team would just kind of try to focus on. Hey, let's not run into people. Nobody get injured out there chasing a ball. Let's just catch the ball and throw the ball. Okay, that's all we need to do. All right, and we'll see how it ends up for us.
That to me, and I know you're referring to the collision in Baltimore, right? And I texted you after that happened, and I know it's somewhat old news because we did take a week off, but my comment to you about that specifically was I can't get over the fact that I get it. The guys on the field are not very good. They don't have enough talent, or they're still developing, or they're young, or whatever the case may be, right? Regardless of where they're at, they're just not going to be as good as the other team. They haven't been as good as the other team all year, right? But they are still Major League Baseball players. These guys have been playing the game for a long, long time. This isn't the first time that they've had a gaffe like this, where they're running into each other, or balls are falling in between people, or it looks almost cartoonish out there when they're trying to attempt to do things that seemingly seem like routine for other teams. Now, again, fly balls or duck snorts that fall between guys, I get it. That happens a lot, and you're not going to be able to go make the play. But the fact that we're running into each other still and not understanding who's got the ball and whose ball it is and who's making the call drives me absolutely insane, Nick. I cannot understand it. And I've said this a billion times. I've never played the game at any level other than in the neighborhoods with buddies. Okay. I love this game. I've watched it a long time. I coach some kids now because I think it's fun, but somebody's got to be able to take charge and call the ball and make it safe. You shouldn't be worried about colliding with your teammate more times than not, because nobody understands whose ball it is and who's supposed to make the call. It drives me insane. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you bat 150, or you're the best hitter in baseball, or you're one of the best defenders in the game or not, or you're an all-star, or making $400 million a year. I don't care. It's inexcusable at this level for that to happen. And I cannot believe it continues to happen in this organization. It's not just this year. It's not just singular to this year. It's been happening for the last 3 years, Nick. And I can't understand it. And there's something broken in this chain. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely continuing with Grady Sizemore in charge. How it's happening and the type of plays, these aren't like crazy the confusion. I don't know how we would ever figure out who's got the right of way on this. So if you were watching this past week in Baltimore, and I was actually watching this live, and it's another and just embarrassing moment of a team that has created so many embarrassing moments as we sit here with 111 losses. But Daryl Van Scoven of the Sun-Times wrote it up this way: a collision involving left fielder Andrew Benintendi and third baseman Miguel Vargas, the major league player with a 170 batting average after being acquired at the trade deadline in a 3-team deal that cost the Sox pitchers Eric Fetty and Michael Kopech and outfielder Tommy Pham, allowed 3 runs to score on a pop-up by former, this is the kicker, by former designated hitter Eloy Jimenez in Baltimore. So Eloy Jimenez is at the plate. He hits this pop-up into short left field. Benintendi's charging, which I would say it's a well than a majority of the time it's the left fielder's ball. He is coming in, he's charging, he has the right of way. What Miguel Vargas is doing, running backwards or to the side, twisting around, trying to make this play, that absolutely should not happen. I don't know what I guess the managerial call of miscommunication or whatever, or he couldn't hear. But you peel out, man. You peel out because Benintendi is there. He has to be there. Yeah. You just peel out. And there should be a lot of players yelling at him, like, get out of the way. So it looked bad. It looked really bad. I mean, Vargas was all shaking. Someone's really going to get hurt if they haven't already. I mean, Lenny Sosa took a throw down to second during warmups to the face, hit him right in the face. I mean, Sosa has been a mess the last few weeks. I mean, he doesn't look like himself. He's completely out of place. He doesn't know what's going on. And that was a guy that I was really excited about with getting some consistent playing time. And if now it looks like the more he gets, the worse he's become. Like maybe we should have stuck with that small sample size. He looked great.
Yeah.
So that embarrassment in Baltimore, that sums up, sure, the 2024 White Sox season. But as you said it kind of sums up the organization over the last several years.
Yeah.
It just, how does it stop? When does it stop? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we could probably sit here if we wanted to, and it wouldn't be very entertaining podcasting, but we could probably come up with a list of 5 to 10 things that have made like national news discussion because of how embarrassing they are. Think about the having 2 strikes and intentionally walking, or what was the thing that Tony did? I can't even remember now. It was the you walk a guy with two strikes, right? You intentionally, and then the next guy goes up and hits a home run. Like that's ridiculous. The triple play that happened against the Twins, I can't remember exactly the whole situation, but those are like things that you look back and go, wow, that's embarrassing. Like, okay.
Guys playing out of position that have just been falling on their face out there in right field. There's been other collisions in the outfield, and I get it. It's baseball, but no, it's not. When you're a horrible team, it finds you because that's what you're built like. And it's all over.
And the I guess the crazy thing is, again, they're getting national attention for their ineptitude, how embarrassing the losses are and how embarrassing the play is. It's not just losses. And we point out the craziness that's happening. Like, okay, on our station on ESPN Chicago, most folks know that from 10 to noon, Mike Greenberg has a show, right? It goes from local to a little bit of a national feel between 10 and noon. And Greeny was on the other day. I'm in the office, and Greeny starts talking about the Chicago White Sox. And it's strange because, first of all, Greeny doesn't normally talk about baseball. It's more about the NFL and the NBA are the 2 most dominant things that are talked about, and the New York Jets in particular with Greeny. And the fact that he took, I think, 5 minutes to talk about Chicago White Sox baseball and played a clip of Len Casper, I think calling the final out maybe in one of the games against San Francisco, and just talking about how Len had this, he voiced it, and there was a play, and it sounded like it could have been a close game, and they lost 12-3. And he's like, and Greeny's point was, can you believe that he made it sound like the game was close? Like if you just flipped it on at that point and you thought, oh, did they get beat by a run? And that's the ball game, 12-3. It's like, oh my goodness. So it's taken on a life of its own. I mean, this whole year, the embarrassment, and again, I think the only thing that would give us a little bit of satisfaction is if you and I could sit here and go, you know what, we're going to endure this. Everybody, team, friends, fans, family members, let's endure this because there is light at the end of the tunnel. But I can't see the light right now at the end of that tunnel. It's very dark and murky. And I think I texted you, today, what's Chris Getz's number one priority as we go into the off season. And I guess you would assume it would be manager, but I don't know. I can't really sit here and tell you that I can't grade Grady Sizemore. I know there's been stuff out there that would you keep Grady Sizemore as your manager? I wouldn't, but I can't judge him on how good a manager he is or isn't because of the players. So is it more of a player directed focus, or should it be manager first and go let the chips fall where they may?
Well, I don't think I wouldn't be too worried about personnel and roster. I don't think they're going to be aggressive towards anybody. It's going to be the same old, bargain bin, We're going to try to catch lightning in a bottle on a couple guys, because we have to have a team. We have to have a roster. They're not going to spend any serious money. That's ridiculous. So I think it would be manager, and then what kind of coaching staff, are you giving this manager the permission, and what other departments? It sounds like the Sox lost a huge chunk of their scouting department recently. Either a guy left and a bunch of people were let go. Scouting is an issue. Development is an issue. Analytics, like all these other things that they don't even have enough of, or have even tried to really develop those types of departments. Is that something you're going to try to grow? I mean, Bannister was a move that was brought in that a lot of people were high on. Is there a Bannister type of offensive mind out there? Because the Sox are last in the majors in runs, slugging percentage, on base percentage, and home runs, and have been outscored by roughly 150 runs in the sixth inning or later. So offensively, this team is a laughing stock. And yes, there's exciting arms in the farm system, and just wait. I've heard this. I heard this back in 2017 and 2018. But I also heard about offensive guys that were going to be coming through. I mean, I haven't heard too many offensive guys. We keep getting some Colson Montgomery highlights, pushed down our throats. It happened just a few days ago. He hit a couple home runs, but in terms of offense, where's that going to come from? Who's leading the charge in offense with this program? So get your manager, get your coaches, but you almost have to start everything from the ground up. We keep saying that philosophy wise. I mean, Sox are 6-40 since the All-Star break, and assistant GM Josh Barfield, brought over from Arizona last year. He was, I think, on the telecast recently talking about some things and what the Sox are going to have to, do in the offseason. And he said, look at where we are right now. Part of that is giving young guys opportunities to come up here and grow. And hopefully when everybody is starting to come into their own, that's when that window starts to open up. I've heard all of that BS before. I mean, are we to believe that it's real now? Are we going to start talking about that window again, and that window conversation? Well, we talked about it, but we didn't really maximize it last rebuild. Now, trust us. No, when the young guys start to galvanize and we see the window, that's when we're really going to capitalize on the moment and seize the day and the opportunity, and the money's going to. I don't know if I could stomach that all over again, Pat.
Yeah, I don't know. Stomach a lot of things with this team. It'd be hard to do. I think it's an infrastructure thing. I think it's got, if you've removed so much of your scouting and so much of that, it's got to be. I think you have to build that out first before you even go manager. And even if you miss out on a couple good candidates because you're taking the time to make sure everything from the inside out is working properly, I think that's, again, like the old cliche, if you're building a house, it's got to have a strong foundation. I do have a quick question for you, Nick.
Yeah.
You haven't done Locked On Sox in quite some time. How good are you at still doing a solo podcast? Because I may have to run and get a power cord. My computer's about to run out of battery.
I could still handle
this. Can you fill some time
Yeah.
while I run away real quick? I thought I had plenty of battery, and now I currently don't. So
I'm going to talk Sox Fest, and then you jump in, and I'll kind of fill you up.
Okay. All right. Don't go anywhere, because I'll be back.
Yeah. All right. So Pat had asked me before we recorded here, episode 286. We exchanged some notes back and forth through text, and he said, if they held a Sox Fest, would you go? And there's been some murmurs on Sox Fest 2025. This is what the Chicago White Sox have on their actual website. If you haven't checked it out, this is like their official stance on the upcoming Sox Fest. Chicago White Sox announced the organization's winter fan gathering, Sox Fest, is scheduled to return on January 24th through the 25th. 24th through the 25th, just 2 days. Okay, it used to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're getting a 24th through the 25th, 2025, bringing together current White Sox players, coaches, and prospects. The fan event also will mark storied milestones in the organization's history in 2025, the 20-year anniversary of the 05 World Series, and the 125-year anniversary of the Chicago White Sox organization. I doubt you're going to have actually humans there that were from that era. But Sox Fest has welcomed fans during the winter season to connect with their favorite Sox current and past stars while celebrating the start to the upcoming season, honoring 2 momentous anniversaries in the franchise's history. Sox Fest 2025 returns with the same community-building spirit, featuring new and reimagined programming and experiences to immerse guests into the world of White Sox baseball. You want to immerse guests into White Sox baseball, you just punch them right in the stomach when they walk through the turnstile. Put a bag over their head.
And then it's February, so get the hell out. That's it. Go back to your car, walk in the cold.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming.
Yeah, just a quick kick in the butt. Get out of here. So in that whole statement, okay, great. You're going to honor 125 years. Okay, you're going to lean into that. You're really going to lean into the 20th anniversary of the 05 team, which is to nobody's surprise. It's now just 2 days. So after being gone for so many years, you're just going to do 2-day Sox Fest, January 24th and 25th. But I have not seen any location. I have not seen any. It was at McCormick Place recently. It's been at hotels downtown. Some have been better than others in terms of location and how they've done it. By now, you already know. And when it has been going on, Sox Fest, you already know the details. So you can book in advance and you can, get your room and get your, and it's so it just seems like they don't know, but they're throwing something out there. And, Danny Miller from my program on Future Sox, Hot Takes and Heaters, we've gone back and forth on this thing, Pat, of could the 20th anniversary of the 05 team and whatever they do to honor 125 years of White Sox baseball, could that mask the stench, horribleness that has happened with this club over the last couple of years, especially 2024?
That's a great question. I don't think there's anything that can mask it, Nick. I mean, if you came out this year and you had, I don't know, somewhere in the area of 60 wins, then I'd say, yeah, you can mask it. It was a bad year. Expectations weren't that high to come in. It would have taken a lot of things going right for you to compete, really, and all that kind of jazz. And we just and we ended up trading pieces away at the trade deadline. So we could have maybe won somewhere in the 70s, but because we did make moves for the future, we were limiting ourselves to 60. So let's go into this Sox Fest and celebrate the 2005 world champion Chicago White Sox. And I think then that can kind of be the deodorant, right? And you're going to go, oh, that was a bad season, but it was just like every other bad season you've experienced, right? You can kind of, you've known how to deal with that, but this has been historically bad. And I think it's just kind of, you look at it and you go, then you automatically go, okay, we had this window in time, very short window in time when we were great. And this organization made us proud. How come we couldn't find a way not to win it? I'm fine. I'm not going to say that I'm fine. That's the wrong thing to say. Winning World Series is not easy for, it's, if it was, there'd be a lot of teams winning them all the time. It's hard to do. But the fact that they have not been able to be consistently knocking on the door and going out back to playoffs and tasting, October more times than not is crazy to me. So the fact that you throw this stench of a terrible year adjacent to trying to celebrate the best of what you've done, but there's these long lifetimes of gaps between success and then you have this as your kind of bookend right now, I don't think you can cover it up.
Yeah. Would it be weird to make the argument that winning a World Series actually is easier than sustained success? So if you were to build a type of franchise or an organization that rattles off, 8 postseason appearances in a row, makes 3 or 4 division or ALCS, American League Championship Series, goes to the World Series a couple times, wins 1 World Series. It's like fluky, like how many fluky World Series teams have happened in our lifetime? I mean, we're going to be celebrating one of them, the 2005 White Sox, but how difficult is it to really build sustainability where you're just there all the time? It's a machine. It's just an absolute machine. Whatever you lose, personnel wise, coaches, whatever, you have built something that it just feeds itself. You get the right people back in there and you don't really miss a beat. That to me is something to really be celebrated. So I find it, the juxtaposition is going to be crazy going into Sox Fest with most likely the worst team of all time. Okay, that just happened. And you are going to try to get people all excited to go down memory lane when you haven't had a Sox Fest in several years. You're only going to give people 2 days. And there are a lot of questions. People have a lot of questions. And there's going to be a new manager. I mean, I in a weird place, Pat, I actually think that Grady Sizemore very well could be the manager in 2025. Should he? Absolutely not. He has no business being the manager. But I think powers that be might just say, what's the difference? We don't know what we're doing. Jerry likes this guy. We'll see what he can do, start fresh. I hope that doesn't happen, but I can make that type of argument. So anyway, you're going to have new people, new faces that fans are going to want to hear from. It's going to be great to live the 20th anniversary. I will attend for that reason because of that team meant so much to me, of course. So, but I'm also at the other end, I'm angry. I'm mad. I want to hear, I want answers. What's the direction? How should we be hopeful about, I get it. The past is great. Let's celebrate it. But what about the future? How can you ask me to continue to invest? How can you beg for billions to build a new stadium when you don't even want to build a new team, a serious team, a real team, that is ready to compete and be sustained for the long run?
I just wonder, does this, is there a way that you and I could talk ourselves into the fact that there is going to be a Sox Fest, maybe signals that there will be some dollars that are spent? Because I think it's a little bit, listen, I don't think it's the right way to build a team. I really don't. I don't think it's, getting guys and paying through the nose for guys that on past performance. I don't think that's a great thing. And I don't even know what the crop of free agency looks like this year. I have no idea. But, as a person that's doing business, do you think, well, I've got to try and revert back to the old ways, at least to be average. And I've got the fastest path to being average is to spending a significant amount of money. And now this past year, their payroll can't be all that high. So he saved a lot of money this year. But I can't imagine. I really can't, because you've seen it before and I've seen it before. And I think the Sox have done this. There's like this walkway where they're announcing players and you get to like, hey, there's my you trot out Andrew Benintendi in front of a group of people. I mean, you might as well. I hope people are bring tomatoes and lettuce and toss it at them. I mean, you can't do that.
That would take you back to the 125th anniversary when people did show up to vaudeville shows and tossed tomatoes and lettuce.
Right.
back in the 1901. That's where I really think that maybe there isn't going to be any mention of the current version of the White Sox.
Yeah.
And you're just going to see the legends. They're going to roll out the legends, the '05 team, and then you're going to have the ambassadors and go back to that. Just pay attention to this, folks. Ignore everything else that's going on, because your other question to me that we talk about quite a bit, but specifically, like, how do you sell this team to season ticket holders next year? I want to know. I mean, I'm no longer a season ticket holder, but have season ticket holders got some sort of statement or the pitch, or is it simply, hey, here's your deadline, end of September, here's your final tab, this is what you owe us, yes or no? Like, what can you do? That's why it's so ridiculous to me that they have season ticket holders commit so early. Like, we don't even know who the manager is. We don't even know any type of direction that this team is going to make in the offseason. You're already asking me to just blindly commit. I think that's unfair. I mean, the stifling of fans and how they want to express themselves at Sox games, which I find to be in a nonviolent way with sell the team banners. You see all those videos of, and stuff on social media of people bringing in these sell the team banners, and they get taken away by security right away. And even if you have a cooperating group you're with, you're not limiting anybody's view, and they are trying to take your signs. There was somebody, a couple fans that had I don't like our team shirts, that the statement from Chris Getz back almost like a year ago or whatever it was. And Sox security made them either turn the T-shirts inside out or button up the jersey because there was going to be unrest. Like, give me a break. The whole Reinsdorf organization, the thin skin stuff, that's really gross to me as well. Whether you believe it or not, or you think it does anything, if fans want to express themselves and they're not hurting anybody, they're just making a statement.
Right.
They've paid their ticket and they're making a statement. The disconnect is just wider and wider, fan and organization.
I mean, it's very telling about the organization, right, and the ownership, and it is a little bit like, do you get it yet? Do you get it yet, Jerry? Do you understand that we're upset, right? Do you understand that we're not happy about the direction of this team? We're not happy about anything. Is there anything that we can do to get your attention? Because you obviously don't want to hear from us. But we're going to let you know, we're going to let you hear it. And I don't know. I think that if I'm the owner, do I want to see that stuff? No, I don't want to see that. That would hurt me, right? That would cut deep. Like this many people around here dislike me that much. But I would like to think that at least it would cause me to think and ask a question of, boy, what have I really done? What have I done, and what can I do? What do I want to try and take care of my paying customer, or do I want to continue to ignore them? And guess what? A lot of them are ignoring you back. So you should be actually thankful for the people that came into your building with the sign, because I'd rather have that person there than the person that's completely checked out.
Yeah.
And isn't coming back. Those are the ones you should be caring about, not the ones that carry a sign.
Yeah, there was an article in The Athletic, I think this past week, that talked about how these teams like the Chicago White Sox, and nobody is as bad as the Chicago White. I mean, there's some bad organizations, and also there's some bad owners, of course, what's going on in Oakland. But teams like the Sox, the article kind of centered on why you shouldn't expect much change as a fan. If you're experiencing a horrible season and your team is just, you can't even stomach watching them, why that there most likely won't be any change. And it comes down to finances. it comes down to these teams are still profitable, believe it or not. They're still making money with all the different deals that are going on, all the money that flows in. They're still making money on this awful product. So why would an owner switch their thinking and say, you know what, out of the goodness of my heart, because I've all of a sudden become a fan, like it's that whole Christmas Carol thing we've talked about on this show. The Ebenezer Scrooge moment. He's visited by three ghosts. He all of a sudden opens his heart, changes ways, realizes how he should really be spending his money and living his life and everything. And if you're making money, then why change? You know, why? The only way you would is if all of a sudden you had a change of heart and became like a diehard Sox fan, and you saw what we're going through as diehard Sox fans that are committed and spend our time, money, energy, multi-generation, memories, everything in our lives. Like this has been part of it. And that's not him. Like he's an owner.
Yeah.
It's dollars and cents. So that's what kind of irks me, and that reading that article, like, I think I did it justice. It was kind of the synopsis there. If they're still making money, which I believe they are, I don't expect any change from Jerry.
Well, then we're in for a long time, and we're going to have a hard time coming up with good things to talk about on this show. And the only thing I could go back to, how do you sell this? Like, not sell the team, but how do you sell it to your fans or get people excited about it? You have to kind of get to the root of what selling a product is, and it comes down to features and benefits. So at some point, somebody in that organization is going to have to provide the fans with a feature and a benefit of re-upping your season tickets to come and watch this team. So I really I can't tell you what those are right now, but at some point as a salesperson, you got to put it on a piece of paper and hand it over to a customer and say, here's your features and your benefits. This is what's great about this team, and here's how it's going to benefit you and make your life better. And I can't find anything with this current construction that does that.
And you've got to kind of move mountains, because in 2017, 2018, you were able to do that because you had a fresh, clean slate. You didn't have any jaded, burnt memories, anybody that said, you know what, I've heard this before. I need a new feature. I need a new benefit. You don't try to run that back again. So you not only have to feature it, but you have to get people to like reinvest and change their thinking and have short-term memory, which is very, very difficult. Sydney said in the chat that payment renewals are due by the end of the month. So, and I think you can get an extension. I would assume. I don't know how much, rope they're going to give you, but I don't envy those people in those situations. You spend your money however you want to spend your money. This isn't me at all telling people, if you want to do it, you want to watch live White Sox baseball, I get it, man. Live baseball is great. There's nothing like being at the ballpark, especially in the summer. Hey, I get it. But I'm trying to find a reason why somebody that's maybe on the fence, I don't know if that 10% discount is going to get them, across the finish line. 10% off for season tickets. I don't know. But we'll find out. Numbers will show up eventually. I think the attendance will be at an all-time low. It'll smash records. And I don't know how we can obtain numbers, but I thought a lot of people jumped ship last season from season tickets. I got to imagine it's going to be close to double that this coming off season,
which is a shame, which is a real shame, because, it's better at the ballpark is what I'm told.
Yeah. And they got to find a way to make it. And I think low hanging fruit is the 2005 White Sox team, roll them out, have some bobbleheads, have some commemorative giveaways, have turn back the clock nights. You got 125 years and you don't have to honor any current player. But in 125 years, you've worn some crazy jerseys, some memorable stuff has happened. Try to bring that back. Have those moments. I mean, if you're not thinking about that already, that's a miss.
Yeah.
We don't have to lean on who's going to be on the team, what players are going to be around. We are celebrating our 125 years. It's already been written, so just find the moments that you want to highlight, and people will come out, man. Nostalgia, history. You bring back some of those jerseys and wear those certain nights, and you're going to have people showing up at the ballpark.
They're going Brooks Boyer is going to have his work cut out for him next year. That's for sure.
Pat, are you ready for the Grady Sizemore quote of the week?
I didn't think there could be anything better than you've already told me. I'm surprised there's more, but I'm ready for it.
There's a good one here. And before we get to it, I got to thank everybody for jumping in with us live here on Sunday night. We used to, back well before mid-July, we'd be able to stream the podcast on Twitter X, and I could do, my personal account and the Good Guys Talk Back account. And then things changed mid-July, where you needed to be a blue check mark. You needed to pay to play to stream a live podcast to, your Twitter feeds, whatever. So we're just on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. So subscribe to that channel. It really helps us out. And man, so many people in the chat on Sunday night talking about a team helping us out on a 111 loss team. This is Sox therapy, rubbing shoulders with like-minded people. I love it. And I can't thank everybody enough. Here is Grady Sizemore quote of the week. This happened sometime over the last week or so. I should have time-stamped it, but I didn't. It was a tough day offensively, Sizemore said. The back of their bullpen did really well, but the at-bats are there. Believe me, there's no shortage of work or drills that we are not doing in the cage or on the field. Sometimes you don't get the hits or they don't fall in, and you can't get them when you need them. It's just baseball. And I love that, because that's a quote that, a team that's 25 games over 500 would say, like, that has won, 8 of the last 10. And they had a tough day out there. And it's like, It didn't go our way. It's just baseball. And he's using that line for probably well over 100 losses at that point of that quote. So I loved it.
That's why it's all BS. I mean, it's just like, there's no truth in it. It's like, all right, let me think about something a manager said one time when I was on a good team, maybe with Cleveland, and, we were, we're a good team, but maybe we rattled off. We lost, 7 of our last 10, and we're in a slump. What would that person say? I'll say something like that and equate it to the team that I'm currently managing, which still blows my mind, and have lost 111 games. So that's where the box that I put that in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see that. I wonder how many more he's got up his sleeves. There's 18 games left. Cleveland is up next. I believe 3 with the division leader. We'll see how that goes.
I envision Grady Sizemore. It's almost like, did you ever see the movie Castaway? And he's just scratching off, like, okay. And he's Tom Hanks, and he's going to be rowing out into the middle of the ocean at some point, and it's going to be the end of the season, and he's going to get picked up by a cruise ship of some sort. So that's where he's at in the year, I believe.
And I feel like the fans are Tom Hanks with the blade of an ice skate right in our mouth, just jamming it against a tooth. I'd rather feel this pain than watch this ball club anymore.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Pat, it's always a pleasure, buddy. It's good to be back after a couple weeks, or I guess a week in between off there.
Yeah, let's try and do it next week, and we'll see if there's another win or two in our future.
I love it. Thanks again, folks, for joining. joining us live. You can find the podcast absolutely everywhere, audio for sure, wherever you find your podcasts. Subscribe to the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. We're on Twitter X at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page. Hey, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.